Well, hello there, and welcome to RedShelf's virtual booth for CSUN 2021. We're glad you joined us today. Uh, just a few introductions before we sort of get into who RedShelf is and what we do. My name is Erin Lucas. I am the Senior Director of Digital Accessibility at RedShelf. I've been there for about 4 years. And prior to coming to RedShelf, I spent a little over 20 years doing graphic design and software development, mostly in the federal government space. 15 of those years, I was at the Department of Defense, ensuring Section 508 compliance for our software products. And I'm also a DHS certified trusted tester and IAAP member. So for those of you who may not be familiar with RedShelf, we are an ed tech company. And our focus is making education more accessible, more affordable, and more effective. And we distribute digital course materials via our content delivery system, which is an efficient method of delivering those materials to campuses. We are based in Chicago and founded in 2012. We've been named to the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing private companies for the last 3 years. We distribute roughly 1 million digital titles from over 400 publishers to millions of students all across campuses nationwide. We are the nation's most utilized inclusive access platform. We're also the primary digital provider for Follett managed stores. Our goal is really to help you help students. That's especially important when we talk about accessibility needs. Only about a third of students have their required course materials by the first day of class, and that number is probably a little bit higher for students with disabilities. About 22% of incoming freshmen identify as having at least one disability or learning disorder. But we all know that less than 50% of those students will register and self-identify with their DSO so they can get that learning support and resources that they may need to succeed. But RedShelf has solutions for those problems. So first of all, our accessible e-reader is really just about bringing course materials to life, enhancing that student engagement in ways that print materials just simply can't accomplish. So we have all the things you would expect to find in a digital e-reader, things like highlighting text and taking notes, defining unfamiliar words, creating study tools like flashcards and study guides. Our books allow you to print selected pages or take all of your content offline. You could also have text read aloud, either with our in-app text-to-speech tool. You can choose the voice and the pace in which it reads to you. And our e-reader is also screen reader accessible. Of course, we generate citations and content, and then we look to engage our students even more through discussions and questions, quizzes, and more. We also have industry-leading accessibility support. I'm really proud of the support that we bring to not only students, but campuses all across the country. It's really one of my absolute favorite things to do, to work with our DSOs to make sure that their students succeed. One of the ways that we do that is through our Accessibility Student Accommodations Program. That really can mean the difference between first day access for a student with disabilities. If they need an accommodation, it might not be first day access if you're doing inclusive access on your campus. So we like to encourage our DSOs to work with us to make sure that they know what's being adopted ahead of time if they can, and work through that ASAP route to get those accommodations through us. We can also help faculty and accessibility offices with sampling of textbooks. So if an accessibility office needs to have a sample of a book in order to support a student, especially during these times when we're all co-located, that can be the difference between a student understanding how to use RedShelf with their technology and maybe dropping the class. So anytime anyone needs a sample, we can also facilitate that. This is also very important when it comes to making informed adoption decisions. If you're able to review certain materials ahead of time, whether you're faculty or working in an accessibility office, you can make recommendations on, hey, this is an accessible textbook and I think that we should adopt it. So, digital really does help solve certain student challenges, but especially in that accessibility realm where students may choose not to self-identify, like we mentioned. Their accessibility needs are not always obvious, and they, kind of want to keep that to themselves on campus maybe, but all the more reason for us to be as accessible as possible. So those students can still learn effectively, even if they don't want to identify with an accessibility office. And then the digital native students, they have completely different learning styles and expectations than previous generations. So we look to meet those expectations as well. Of course, course materials, really the cornerstone of what happens on a campus. And, we want to make sure that we have digital options that provide an accessible user experience for everyone. So a little bit about adopting accessible course materials. What do we mean when we say adopting the most accessible materials, and how do we accomplish that? So really, it's a combination of three things: being able to have digital content that's in an accessible format, being able to influence adoptions on your campus, to be able to say, hey, we need to be adopting accessible materials. And then also talking about the delivery of the materials. How do they get to the student? Is that an accessible path? So when it comes to adopting accessible materials and choosing accessible materials, EPUB is really your best route. So EPUB is born accessible. Digital content that's built basically using the technology that built the web. It's essentially just HTML. It was developed for the digital publishing industry. It's compatible with assistive technologies. It also can include accessibility metadata that we can expose to users and accessibility offices, so they know whether or not this book is going to work with their assistive technologies. It's also reflowable, so you can use it on any size screen or in any orientation. It is governed by standards, and that really ensures that everyone has that equal reading experience. And it's swiftly becoming the most popular option for course materials, which is really great, especially for covering all students' needs. So within the RedShelf catalog, we actually have 82% EPUB now. And I can tell you that over the last 4 years, that number has gone from about, I would say, roughly 48% up to 82% of our over 1 million titles that are available. But really the more important number here on the screen is that only 46% of EPUBs are what's adopted on a campus. So we are adopting far more PDFs than we are EPUBs. So being able to influence the idea that we should be asking questions about our course materials and making sure that they are accessible will help those numbers catch up to each other. So hopefully this time next year, I'll be able to say that we are at least 50% EPUB adoptions or higher. So who can influence those accessible adoptions? So really the whole ecosystem on a campus in terms of adopting materials can influence this process, even from a pub rep point of view. So if publisher representatives are knowledgeable about the differences between inaccessible and accessible content, they can make better recommendations to professors and faculty. And professors and faculty should also have that baseline of knowledge. So if they have been adopting the same materials term over term, they might want to ask their pub rep the next time that they go to adopt that book, hey, is there an EPUB available for this title? Maybe we should adopt that this term. And then of course they work closely with bookstore managers when adopting their materials. And so, bookstore managers also interact with pub reps. So having that conversation, do you have an EPUB? Is this available as an EPUB? Is critical in making sure that what you're adopting is accessible. And then, of course, we always like to say that it takes a village, that everyone here should be connected to each other, especially when it comes to adoptions. So we always encourage our bookstore managers and our accessibility offices to get to know one another so that you can utilize the resources on your campus to either vet materials if you need to, or have the accessibility office make some recommendations This also helps to make sure that they have an earlier view on what's being adopted if they should need to get accommodations from us or the publisher. So accessible delivery, what we really mean there is a technology that makes sure that you are delivering these materials accessibly, because even the most accessible delivery model is not as accessible as it can be without those accessible course materials. And I'm proud to say that we have a lot of partners in making this happen, and we're really grateful to them for their guidance and their support. So folks like the DAISY Consortium, who run the inclusive publishing site, as well as epubtest.org. They've been a great partner to us in helping us ensure that our technology is accessible. The National Federation of the Blind has vetted our onboarding materials, as well as our e-reader, to make sure that it is accessible. Level Access is our VPAT partner. They do all of our third-party audits on our tools to create our VPATs, and we do have a long-standing relationship with them, a true partnership to continue working together to make sure that they understand our technology and can obviously author those VPATs in an effective manner. And then, of course, Benetech, they're well known for, serving the accessibility community. And in partnership with DAISY, we work closely with them on many of their initiatives. So thank you so much for stopping by RedShelf. I hope you've gotten a little taste of what we're all about. I'd love to sit down and connect with you at some point during CSUN. I know we can't do that in person, but if you check out our virtual booth, there is a link there in order to schedule a time to meet with me. Just goes right into my calendar and you can see what's available during the week. If you would rather reach out to me directly, please do so. You can get in touch with me at erin@redshelf.com, and I'd be happy to set something up for you. Again, thanks for stopping by. Hope to talk to you real soon. Bye.